Hi everyone, my name is Adrienne Blas, and this video is based off my responses to the movie The Band Played On. So question number one is, how did the political administration at the time impact funding for HIV and AIDS research? In the 1980s, homosexuality was frowned upon, and because the illness started within the gay community, the government didn't want anything to do with it. The director of CDC didn't want to admit to any of what research had pointed to and make it public because he did not want to make any enemies. And he was also afraid that little funding they received would get off. Because of this, it delayed the proper awareness. For the epidemic. The government didn't have enough money to fund the research at this time, which prevented the proper research that was needed to study the AIDS virus. In the movie, President Reagan had mentioned that the money for public health was going to decrease, and the increase in money was going to the Department of Defense. The congressman also said, "I'll introduce a bill, but if all the angels came dancing down to earth like rockets, even they couldn't get a dime out of this administration for anything with the name gay on it." So because of these factors, it was extremely difficult for the CDC to take preventative actions about AIDS. Question number two, do you think the political administration's lack of acknowledgement of HIV and AIDS impacted the public's perception of the disease and the spread of the disease? In what ways? Explain your rationale. Yes, it definitely impacted the public's perception and the spread of the disease. Homosexuality was unacceptable, and because of this, the negative attitude towards gays had a lot of effect on the nation politically. In the beginning of the movie, a representative of the gay community asked for the Democratic Party to recognize the gays as humans, but many people in the audience were against it. When Reagan became president, many in the gay community felt discriminated, so when the world became aware of AIDS and its prevalence only to the gay community, there was little interest in the government to discuss the concerns of the epidemic. It wasn't until towards the ending of the movie as the number of cases and deaths started to increase outside the gay community, so of course children, women, and non-homosexuals were dying as well, the government started becoming concerned and the public started fearing for their lives. Question number three, in your opinion, what were the most poignant moments in this historical perspective? Discuss at least two. For me, I personally thought that the two poignant moments were, one, the gay community fighting for their rights, and how the Ebola outbreak in Africa started everything for CDC employee Don. It is sad that back in 1980, homosexuals had to struggle to feel like they need to belong in this world. For them to fight for their rights, to save the only place they felt welcomed was moving to me, because after all the discrimination that they've encountered, the bathhouses, being called names, and being looked at as a weird person, the gay community made them feel that warm sense of belonging, and that is definitely important. After the Ebola experience in Africa that Don had encountered, he knew there was more to come. It wasn't AIDS that killed those Africans and the doctor, but he knew it was a sign to prepare for the worst to come. Since then, it had pushed him to figure out the epidemic that was killing homosexuals, children, men, and women. Don didn't let the government and lack of funding stop him. His drive and compassion to discover AIDS and find preventative measures to stop this epidemic kept him going, and eventually led him to move on in his career to develop an AIDS vaccine. Thank you.